Welcome back to the Guitar Department. I'm your host, Joe Alton, and today we have part 2 of our Jon Locker special. Stay tuned. We got a lot to talk about. It's going to be a fun episode. And we are back, and I'm sitting here once again with Jon Locker. I brought the coolest looking guitar that I own today, mostly because I needed to compete with what you're holding. So this is the guitar that you used to make the world record attempt, which we're calling an attempt for now, but I was there.
Correct.
It happened. You own the world record. On my authority, you're a world record holder.
Perfect.
Tell me about this guitar.
Yeah, so this is awesome. This is built. This is the second bass they've made for me.
Built guitars.
Built guitars, yeah.
Sorry,
I'm saying short term. Yeah, Built
That's
Guitars.
Okay.
Look them up from
Let's
here in
give
Des
them a
Moines.
plug. Yeah, these guys are amazing.
Oh,
Great work.
great. And so I gave them a chunk of wood. Long story short, my grandparents' barn, there was like a 100-year-old barn, just got torn down. But before that happened, before the land got sold and everything, we all had a chance to go pick what you want from there or whatever. And aside from the garbage bag of old tubes that I grabbed, I had the idea for a while. I just need to get a barn door, a chunk of barn, and then in theory make a bass out of it, or even just a art piece bass, not a real player out of it.
A wall hanger.
Yeah. And anyway, took the idea to build. This was months and months ago, and actually the piece of wood was sitting over there from when the Sonic Factory moved out of next door from Built. So, but this whole world record thing came about, and I said, you know, that barn bass that we were kind of talking about, what if we could get that done and I used that for the world record? Because if you're really digging deep, it's that that farm is where I first saw people play instruments and sort of a family jam when I was way young. And then
Sentimental lineage.
Yeah, exactly. And so they're like, yeah, I don't know. I think we can, because they are backed up. I mean, if you order a guitar, it's 3 or 4 months before it's even looked at, But so here's a little news flash. They can get one done in a week if they have to. But yeah, anyway, the whole body is that barn. There's one little strip of fur in the middle. So I actually expected just the front, but Tim did the back and everything too. Wow. The whole thing is that with just this, I probably won't pick up, but this thin little strip of wood. Other than that, all barn wood. Not the most easy to work with, from what I understand, but also not that bad. Then
and it's still pretty raw too. It looks like.
Yeah,
they didn't finish it or really anything.
It's fairly smooth if you touch it, but someone's getting a splinter at some point.
Yeah, it's going to be huge. Huh?
Probably. But then the whole idea was that we can't have brand new chrome parts on this thing. Right. But Built does not do relicking. They will hint at something here and there, but that definitely. They're not going to take their belt buckles to your guitar or anything. Sure. But luckily, the internet does. And so these I will never buy again. These are $25 Amazon tuners that they're looking for some other ones for me. They can have this similar look. Okay. Not only do they grind, but they bend and they're just terrible. Okay. But they look cool.
They do look cool.
But then the pickup I actually got from Corey Talbot, bass player of Pork Tornadoes. Okay. We both, he was a few years younger than me. We both went to Nevada. So we didn't really grow up together, but kind of. And then we've been good friends and known each other a long time. He is the hoarder of Stingray parts. So if you need Stingray parts, you just need Corey Talbot's number. But he had original Music Man, which Stingray is my desert island bass. Like if I could only have one bass and it can't be one of these, it'd be a Stingray. And the original Stingray pickups from the early 2000s to me are, I know the early 70s or the 70s ones are the great ones in this, but they don't make a 5-string. And so this is a actual Music Man pickup with the electronics. Then they have a company that makes their control cavity covers. So we got some copper. And they wouldn't do it, but they gave me suggestions on how to, and then the internet, how to kind of age the copper. Okay. Because I went way too far with it at first. It was teal when I gave it to Tim, and he kind of did some stuff and darkened it a little bit, and then I was like, there, that's perfect. That's just leave it right there. And then these are fake knobs. They're not really that old and crusty, but yeah. And the bridge is just a replacement Stingray bridge that. Once again, I took all apart and left soak in salt water for about a week, and just the coin.
Yeah, I was gonna say, tell me about the coin in the middle.
So the coin tied to the 1918 here. That's when the barn was built. Okay. So just trying to come up with some way to commemorate. My main Stingray has a Susan B. Anthony dollar that I put in there years ago. That actually before Built was built, they did it for me, just gluing it in there. And Brandon Darner from Built, she's like, are you going to put a coin in this one? And I'm like, well, I thought this would kind of do what the coin was going to do. And he's like, you got to put a coin in there. So
it does look cool.
It does look cool. So
is there anything sentimental about that specific coin, or is it just from 1918?
From 1918, I went to the coin store on Hickman there, and I was like, can I look at some worn 1918? I don't even know what the options are. I know there's nickels and dimes and stuff. Anyway, yeah, I got this. You knew what it was. What was it again?
It's a Liberty. I think it's a $50.
This is why I feel stupid, because the other one had sentimental value. The other one in my Stingray was 1979 when I was born, a Susan B. Anthony dollar that my grandparents gave my parents. And when I was moving out of my first house after a divorce, it fell out of a box, and I knew exactly what it was, and I was like, how could I not lose this again? And anyway, so this I don't have sentimental, but I have another one of these, so it just needs to find another chunk of wood. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, the bass looks amazing, and it's got, so you're running it through the same rig, which has a splitter in it, which means that you run from that single pickup into your splitter, and then the signal splits into 2 separate chains.
Correct.
With your effects. Can you give us a quick example of what that sounds like?
Yes. So with this bass also, initially when I did the world record, it's just regular output. It was just basically kind of duct taped together to do that real quick. Yeah. But now we've got the stereo jack in here. That's what this switch does. This switches to regular guitar cable. I'm just plugging into a bass amp, playing bass. This has now become my backup amp or backup guitar for the Bonnie rig, because with the whole split system, I can't just plug a regular bass into it and it work. I have to plug into an AV box and then blah, blah, blah. So this just became the backup. So really what this can do is it's just a parallel signal. Both signals are the same coming out to there. Right. And then because that box is there. So it's not really doing anything special splitting, but I see where it's hard to not talk and play at the same time. But at the pedal board is where I can turn things off. So like guitar or just bass. And then usually within the presets of the Helix too, these are more like kill switches. If anything, I usually have that set up for the song or whatever. But really what this becomes is just a riff machine, you know. Like you can really just anything Rage Against the Machine or Audio, you know, any of those kind of riffs, just definitely where the bass and the guitar are unison. This setup is just, you can do a whole night of that.
And you were saying off camera that you can sort of emulate like a double string or even triple stringed bass. Yeah,
to some degree. I don't really have a preset, but with all the octaves that you can add, because so like the bass whammy's taking it up one octave, and then the Super Ego, you can set it to a part where it's not droning, but it's still taking things up another octave, and all of a sudden you get to that point. Actually, I should be able to do. It's not really doing it. When I'm messing with home, I do have one it's on my little Axe Effects or whatever, the Stomp XL.
Yeah, HX.
Yeah, but this, you can have up to 3 different octaves going, and then with the other bass, that's where the pickup actually splits, and you can separate these strings from these strings.
Well, let's talk about the other bass too, because this one's extraordinarily cool. The other one, maybe a little less sentimental, I gather, but it's also got a lot of different features that this one doesn't have.
Yeah, I'll grab it. And the fun thing about this is, unless they lied to me, this is the first actual Relevator bass. This is about a year old now or so, but this is in theory the first actual of their production basses. They've made a few now because they weren't really making basses until a couple years ago.
Okay.
But yeah, so this, you'll see some similarities. I like my Stingray pickup. You know? And really the measurements of this and this are based off my Stingray. So even the neck feels the same. Like everything feels.
You say they do look sort of.
Yeah, it's
related.
Because P bass would be my other, like, you know, not this sort of thing go to. So that's where this is actually a P pickup in a Stingray housing.
Okay.
So it's really just, you can see where the 2 P's would be. And then the whammy bar, and then this is a little more complicated on this, just for the different ways we can split it and whatnot. And you got, so like center position is regular guitar chord. You're just gonna go play bass for the night.
Yeah. Boring.
Yeah, boring. Back is parallel, which is basically the same as the barn bass. So same signals coming out of both. And then flipping forward is only works with the P, but then these are split to these, and these are split.
Well, let me hear what that sounds like.
So
I've seen a few videos,
but so a basic thing would be like, you know, you're just trying to, you kind of have a different thing going with. So you get a little drone going here, a little. So that's, there's, you know, so that's one way of doing it. There's, you know, you get like a synth patch or something going on. So if you get like, which these mono synths don't, they don't like notes, you know, they only want one note at a time or they start to garble. Right. But all of a sudden you can, especially if you get some more effects going and whatnot, make it little. And it's really interesting too if you, like you mute, let's see, oh yeah, so like you mute the bass, but you only play on if you get a bunch of reverb going, you can get these sympathetic tones going where these kind of get droning, but you're playing on the part that isn't being picked up.
Yeah, so it's just sort of minimally picking it up through the other.
Right, yeah, because there is a little bit of this board. These are the border strings here, and there is a little bit of bleed back and forth, but
not a whole lot though.
Yeah, not much. And there was the first set of pickups. The P was so much quieter than this Music Man. It was really hard to use, but there was one other little issue, and Novak, these are Novak pickups, so he redid them, rewound the P to be a little hotter, closer to this. So you can actually like switch and be able to, the Stingray is obviously still louder, but honestly, you mix the two together and it becomes this very hi-fi, like if you're doing a lot of slap and whatnot, it becomes very scooped in the mids like that. But yeah, it's I know that I haven't even hardly explored. I've gotten comfortable doing the 5, 6, 7, 8 tricks I got with it. You know, I know there's a whole world to explore still.
So it comes out of the bass in a stereo chord where it goes into that red box that says bass and guitar, and presumably the signal splits, or at least you have the ability to make it split there.
Correct.
Tell me where each path goes from there.
Yeah, so stick with guitar for a second. So the guitar goes out there.
Off
and
the
then
green
goes,
side.
Yep, off the green side. Green for guitar, obviously. Because when you build your own little boxes like that, you can pick your own LED colors. But that goes straight into the Helix then. So these other couple, the Blues Driver and the the Outlaw Marshall. Or Deputy Marshall, I think is what it is.
Yeah.
When I was first going down the pedal path, I went into Pro Music, and I actually was going to buy the bass whammy and one other kind of expensive pedal. And I was like, what's the most cheap used pedal you have in here? I want that one too. And this is what they handed me. I've ended up getting 2 more of these things because I like it.
Those things are great. Outlaw makes great pedals. I have one on my board right now. It's a 5 o'clock fuzz. Yeah, they're fantastic.
So basically those, and I have little stickers on there, so when I'm programming new sounds, I can remember which send is which, because I thought I would remember, but now I don't. So yeah, those are represented as basically, so there's, let me turn the bass off. There's just clean right now. There's clean. And then so hitting the Deputy button, I really have set very aggressively.
Yeah, it's very
usually
just a little bit of break up there, but not much.
Get a little bit. Okay, there we go. It wasn't, yeah, that's usually where that one lives, somewhere around there. I like it. It just sounds Marshall-y, I think. And
yeah, absolutely.
And then the Blues Driver. And what I really started to notice, and this makes sense, obviously, but the different pickups really sound like different guitars.
Oh, yeah.
So, like this front P pickup, I think sounds like very spanky Strat almost, or something.
Single coily, yeah.
And then as soon as you go to the very humbucker, still brighter than a humbucker, but I don't know. I just, when I'm messing with these, I'm half the time I'm thinking about what is this going to sound like as a guitar, you know? But anyway, that's basically the guitar side. So it comes out of the guitar output then, which is the left side, into this Sonic Cake, about $30 volume pedal / expression. I have a couple of those on here.
Yeah, I see that.
And then goes out the Harmonist, which is just so I can do fun things with it. But then that goes underneath the board. There are some Stage Bug ISO boxes. That's what lets me keep everything. I have ground lifts on everything, and it's a pretty clean rig for as much as going on most of the time.
Yeah, you have this enormous pedal board complete with a Line 6 Helix, and you have 3 amps going over here all at the same time, and there's no sound coming out of any of it.
Not like at the world record with that 60 cycle home that I heard for days.
In fairness, that even was a little less noisy than we thought it would be.
Yeah, I mean, I was hearing that sound for a day, but yeah.
So you come out of the Harmonist, and there's that straight into the amp from there?
So that's straight into the Stage Bug, Itzel Stage Bug channel on the bottom, and then these rock boards, these Warwick rock boards, have the nice patch bays on them. So I just got one with plenty of quarter inches on them. So everything's fed from the front of the pedal board back to the amps and made my own little loom that's really nice. But sort of halfway in any given song has a different sort of chain a little bit, but it's all roughly the same. But then somewhere in the middle of that guitar chain is when it splits over to the Super Ego and then the Leslie.
Okay.
So that's really what this volume pedal here lets me do is turn the guitar off and just hear the Leslie or whatever. So what's super fun about this Super Ego that I have not found any other pedals that do this. Probably are other free. I mean, it's just a freeze type situation.
Sure.
But it's got the different modes where you can either, play it like you hold it with your foot, and then I've got it where I can hit the Leslie just by moving my foot over there. But you get that going. So yeah, you can kind of accompany yourself, and then the other modes are more like where it's just tracking what you're doing, but you can move it up another octave or whatever. Sure. But it's that, and then I try and use a real Leslie whenever I can. I have the Fender Pinwheels, the other one that I've found that's a pedal that isn't a $500 Rotosphere or something like that, or $400, but it sounds really good through when you're going straight into the PA or whatever. But Leslie 18, if I can bring that every time, I will.
That's a classic amp over there for sure.
Yeah, so...
Okay, so that's the guitar side,
That's
right?
the guitar side. And then obviously these few pedals are those are the ones that I like, but on the guitar side, I also have like a tube screamer going, a couple different echoes. I like this, almost all my patches have a slapback. I just love slapback, but then I have it to where I can... kind of just, it doesn't, it's not doing the thing that you kind of do with the delay, but just does the feedback.
Yeah.
And it's just a fun swell trick every now and then. And it kind of sounds like the Leslie, even though it's not the Leslie doing that. It's just the way it gets going. But then this doesn't come up as often, but you got to have some sort of tap tempo. I like sitting at home playing with delays.
I think we all do.
Yeah.
I think everybody since Pink Floyd has sat at home and sat there just on their D.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, there was this one night where I thought I discovered music. I'd refigured it out because I was able to get myself to switch back and forth between hearing it as a triplet and hearing it as just these exercises I think are almost as important as running your scales or whatever.
Just permutation.
It's a great metronome type of practice thing because you just in time with yourself and no notes are wrong and
if you do hit the timing wrong, it keeps reminding you. That's what's great about delay.
So yeah, that's pretty much all the guitar chain and then the organ chain. Then so going back to the red box here, you go back to bass.
I noticed you went with red for bass.
I didn't have
you said
blue.
G for guitar, blue's right there.
And honestly, this started its life as a much bigger box, probably late 80s, early 90s Morley AB box. That's what most of the guts are from, that Micah from Built modified. And then this is actually it's the $100 pedal that I bought that goes with the Super Ego, gives you the buttons out here, but it didn't give me the one button I wanted. So it's like, that's what I do to things. They get taken apart and used for other projects.
That sounds about right.
But yeah, so bass side, it's pretty, there's not a ton going on with bass up front. In fact, there's nothing up front with bass. So bass, it goes straight into the helix. And then from here, my main ones this is a Bonnie staple here, is the bass micro synth, but Fordyce modded it years ago to work with expression pedal. So really all he did was take the stop frequency and make it so, and it's, if you listen to any of Bonnie Finken's stuff over the past 5-6 years, you're going to hear this sound on there.
Yeah, so it's an expression pedal, but it's really like an intensity pedal.
Yeah, and depending on how high you have the square wave and the resonance and all that is how wow it gets, But you can turn that stuff down and it can get even to more just like a regular filter. I like doing it, opening it up, getting into a chorus. It's a real fun thing. But then if you, it also does, let's see. Well, I had it going one. Anyway, this little pedal can also get you some nice 80s bass sounds too. That it's the other mod I would love to have Fordyce do is put a little switch so I can turn that trigger off and on.
Yeah, so
But yeah,
Chris Fordyce, get a hold of Jon Locker.
yeah, and yeah, he actually got a hold of me because he's done a few of these now on that pedal and changed something to where he said it works better or something. I don't know. I think I'm just keeping mine the way it is. But other little things on the bass channel, it's mostly octave type things. So a straight up octave pedal, which is, if I had a Desert Island pedal, it would be a OC2, a Boss OC2.
Sure, yeah.
And it's terrible. This track's too good to be that. You know?
Yeah.
And then the only other thing that comes up once in a while is some of these things combined with basically the harmonist that's in here. This isn't quite the right patch, but I've got, you can do some pretty sweet bass drops. There we go. So there's a couple songs where I try and do that. And when it's going through a full-on system, you know, these little amps back here are trying to do it. But that's, yeah, everything hits a stage bug. So I have a ground lift situation. The only other wild card is the, when I was talking about the guitar stuff, yeah, the bass whammy is the first thing.
Right.
What am I talking about? The guitar hits the bass whammy
Well,
first.
it would have to bring it up the
Right.
octave. So.
And it's not that the Helix doesn't have that stuff. It's just that is a DSP killer. As soon as you start doing that stuff,
Yeah.
you start losing blocks. But yeah, so bass side, that's pretty much it. And the only other little wild card is this little riff step over here that can do several things, but I mostly just use it as a MIDI controller to go between 2 octaves up and 1 octave up on the guitar.
Cool.
But it's a full-on little sequencer and everything too that has these little riffs in it, and it's neat. But that's the gist of it. And then the Helix, like I said, from patch to patch, isn't that crazy different on the effects. I mean, sure, there's something here or there that's different. It's more that I can just pull up, I can set the songs in order with the Bonnie and just pull up the next song. Because we did 2 gigs where I had full analog board, and it was awesome, but so many songs where we're getting ready to start the next song, and oh crap, I left off, and I didn't turn off the crazy pedal, and oh crap, and yeah, so this just became way more consistent, way more homework though to do, pre-work. But once you get it set, it is nice playing a show and just, I'm gonna hit the next song. I feel confident that the sound is gonna be what I think it's gonna be.
Well, we could keep going here, but again, I'm being told that we need to wrap this up. We always seem to run out of time. But Jon, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for bringing the big rig too.
Yeah.
This is not the watered down rig in any way.
No.
And this is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing this with us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming out, man.
Thanks.
Jon Locker, everybody. So thank you for tuning into the Guitar Department. I've been your host, Joe Alton. I want to thank my guest, Jon Locker. Jon, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
We have 2 whole episodes going here, so I don't know what they're going to do with this, but this has been a lot of fun. How can they follow any of the many things that you're doing? What would be the best way to keep track of Jon Locker's projects?
I mean, honestly, the all-in-one is Facebook. That's where I'm pretty much current on what's going on. But there's Sonic Factory, Studios.com, GigDayBackline.com. You know, any of the businesses, Jabbermouth Media, any of those have a website. But I mean, generally, Facebook's going to have the most current, here's what's happening next week sort of stuff.
Excellent. And be sure to check out the Guinness World Records site, too, because Jon will soon be featured on that, we hope.
Better be in the book.
Do they still put out a book?
I hope so.
My
kid says they do.
I hope so, too.
I think they do, because yeah, my kid said they looked at one in school. So.
Either way, thank you for being here. Thank you for doing that in the first place. It's an incredible thing. And for those of you watching, be sure to follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/The Guitar Department and our Instagram page at @guitar_department. I want to thank Jackson Miller, our producer, and Matthew, our camera operator. And with that, would you like to play us out with a little 12-bar blues?
Would I?